It's an absolute joy to be here with all of you tonight. And I have to say, I'm especially excited to be doing an event with Lovely Skin, because they're one of my favorite partners to go and visit. They have an extraordinary team, and Lovely Skin customers, I find them especially passionate about skincare, and it always makes me happy to work with them. They love trying new things, so it's great to be here with my friends at Lovely Skin. And a big shout out to the home team in Omaha, Nebraska, who I love. This is my friend Charlie, and she's my model. And so we were talking before we started about her telling her tea. She is. Do you want to tell them your age?
You tell them.
She's 75 years old. So
no way.
And she's had a little help, and she takes really good care of herself.
Clearly,
but she's also got some fabulous genetics, so she's a wonderful model to work with, and I'm always excited to work on her. What we've done to prep her skin is we've started with cleansing her face with a magic mitt and a little bit of Beauty Prep cleanser. I also use the Beauty Prep toner and then some of the hyaluronic serum under our moisturizer. All of our Beauty Prep line, none of it is really high, none of it has retinols or alpha hydroxys or any peeling agents. What it is it's soothing, calming skincare that really drenches your skin with moisture and plumps up your cuticle to give a nice youthful effect. So it's never irritating or anything like that. So that's what I have as the basis for her skin. I'm not going to put any primer on her today. And the reason for that is because I'm going to be using the Beyond Matte Liquid Foundation. It's our newest and our most technologically advanced foundation, and it has a primer built right in, so you don't really have to put a primer underneath it if you don't want to. With that said, I will tell you that one of my favorite products in the line is our Smooth Affair Primer, which is also one of our best-selling products. I think, what is it? One sold every 4 minutes these days worldwide. It's a big seller for us, and that's because it's a primer that's made not just to prime the skin and keep the makeup on, but it also has a lot of skincare benefits like citrus extracts that brighten and minimize dark spots and discoloration, coconut alkanes, which is really hydrating. But the Beyond Matte foundation that I've used, again, it has a primer built right in. So we're going to go straight into that. The way that I'm going to apply it, and I'll let you look at Charlie's beautiful face. She doesn't have any color on right now, so I'm going to get my stainless steel palette, and I'm going to get a little bit of our Beyond Matte Liquid Foundation, just a small amount. I like applying it with my blending contouring brush. That's my favorite brush to use. Hold on, let me just put on my glasses here because I'm blind as a bat. And that way I can see exactly what I'm doing. But when I apply it, I really work it into the brush, and then in a circular direction, I blend it onto the skin. And what I love about this foundation is that it disperses light to create a soft focus effect. And it also has a good amount of coverage to it, but it's buildable. So you can make it sheer if you want it to be more sheer. Turn this way for me. Or you can make it more opaque if you'd like to layer it and put extra. It really just depends on the way that you apply it. As you can see, Charlie had a little bit of hyperpigmentation on the left side of her face here, and when I apply the Beyond Matte over the top of it, you can see that it really gives some nice coverage. She doesn't even really need a lot of concealing there. Now, I also take it right up under the eyes. Even though it's a matte foundation technically, what I love about it is that it's not that chalky matte that we used to see back in the 90s. It's a modern take on matte. That's what I love to call it. In a day and age when everybody's doing more luminous skin, some people don't think of matte foundations, but as you can see, it doesn't really look like she's wearing a matte foundation. It just looks like healthy skin. And that's my objective. I want it to look like skin. The other wonderful thing about this foundation is that it starts out somewhat luminous, and then it works with your sebaceous glands to gradually lower oil production. So it gets more matte as you wear it through the course of the day, which I think is really cool. Do we love the color? I think that looks really pretty. Natasha, can you see it on her skin quite nicely?
I do. I love that. And I have to say, I love hearing that about the fact that it continues to work with your skin because I'm part Jamaican, so I tend to be a little bit darker. And sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear that. I tend to be a little bit darker, and our darker skin, we tend to produce just a little bit more oil. And so I love that it continues to work with you and stay matte because I feel like sometimes you get let down. It
Yes,
starts out matte and then it doesn't end up that way. So this is beautiful.
I agree. So that's the basis for her skin, and you can see that that alone looks really pretty. I don't think we're even going to need to put any powder foundation over it. Now, something to remember is that the Beyond Matte foundation does not have any sun protection in it. So if you do want to add SPF, you could do it by putting a little bit of our Powder Me SPF over the top. You could use some Amazing Base or some Pure Press Base. If you haven't used our Beyond Matte, if you haven't used our Powder Me SPF, this would be a good option for setting it because it doesn't really have any pigment in it. It's very, very sheer. I turn it until the unlock button is there, and then I just dust it lightly onto the skin.
Oh, that's great.
And that'll give her broad spectrum SPF to protect the skin from the sun. But I love it because it does it without adding any pigment, really.
Yeah,
It's so sheer.
It doesn't change the texture of that. It looks beautiful. So you could reapply throughout the day easily.
And I also love the formula. It's made from titanium dioxide, which is a wonderful, physical sun protection. And there's also montmorillonite, which is a healing clay that will take the burn out of an existing sunburn. Tones down redness and irritation. It's wonderfully soothing to the skin.
Nice.
So now we have Charlie. Her skin is prepped with the foundation, but we want to conceal. And I'm so excited to talk to you about the concealer that we're going to use because it's my favorite new product that we made. It is Enlighten Plus Concealer, and it's made with a pump in the application. It has a lot of interesting benefits to it. It has Persian silk tree, which addresses glycination, or some people call it glycination, which is how sugar attaches to the collagen and elastin fibers of the skin, and it makes you age. This prevents that from happening. So the Persian silk tree prevents that glycination, and it addresses fine lines and wrinkles around the eyes. It also has quinoa, which is an interesting ingredient, right? You'd think it would be more in your breakfast cereal, but quinoa will brighten and lighten the skin around the eyes on a regular basis. If you wear it, you'll notice a gradual lightening of the skin. And as well, it also tones down puffiness around the eyes. So it's a great product to use if you tend to get puffy in the morning. And then finally, there's some lactobacillus ferment, which is a probiotic that's going to help to increase hydration on the eyes and give some free radical antioxidant protection. I'm going to put it again on my stainless steel palette, and I do that mainly because I like to be sanitary. Now, if you're using it at home, you can take it right up under your eyes with the applicator tip and blend it. It's cooling and soothing, so it feels wonderful under the eyes, and it helps with that toning down of puffiness.
Very nice. Now,
so I'm sorry.
Can I ask you a question? You've mentioned all these actives that are in this corrective eye product. And I think that that's one of the really unique things about Jane Iredale products is that they're not just makeup, they really are skin health products. I mean, there's an improvement. So can you speak a little bit to the history of that about the brand?
Absolutely. So the other benefit that I forgot to mention that's in it is that there is a broad spectrum SPF. It's 30 in the one that I put it on her, 20 in the deeper tones. So every product that we make at Jane Iredale has some kind of skincare benefit, whether it be hydration, antioxidant value, whether it be sun protection, all of the products are literally good for the skin. And that's important because, for many years, women went to the cosmetics counter and they would sit for an hour with some stranger and let them slather all this product on them. And very often they'd take it home. They would look good when they got their makeup done, but they had no idea of the collateral damage that the makeup was doing to their skin. This is one of the things that drew me to Jane Iredale products is you put it on people and their skin gets better rather than having to wash it off immediately as soon as you get home. You can sleep in this stuff and it won't break you out. It's one of the few makeup lines in the world you can do that with.
That's great. Now, you mentioned this has an SPF in it, and I did want to say that Terry Breen has asked a question if we might be able to highlight a little bit some of the products that have zinc oxide in them.
Yes. So zinc oxide is in our Amazing base, our Pure Press base. Those are the two main foundations that we make. They're kind of what we built our line on, what everybody knows us for. And if you want to know the percentage of zinc oxide, there is a drug facts label on the back of all of our SPF products that shows the exact percentage of ingredients. Because remember that in the United States, sun protection is considered an over-the-counter drug. So we have to put a drug facts label on there, and that gives all consumers the ability to see what this SPF ingredients are and what percentage is in there. So that's great information for all of you that are concerned. I love zinc oxide myself because I love how soothing and calming it is to my skin. And also I love the fact that it gives me some really good broad spectrum sun protection. And I have a tendency to burn quite easily. I have a light complexion. Knows it.
You're allowed. Okay.
Now notice that I'm putting this concealer all over. I'm not just putting it under the eyes. I'm also taking it down the center of the nose and on the chin. Whenever you conceal or add those areas of light, always a great idea to take it under the eyes out, down the center of the nose, on the chin. It illuminates and brightens the face as if a light is shining on you and gives you a nice illuminated look. I'll also go here, 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 and here in those corners of the mouth and the corners of the nose. And you can see as soon as you put it on, what it does is it pushes things forward. Remember, light elevates or pushes forward, dark recesses or pushes back.
Nice. Okay, now I have a couple of technical questions I want to throw your way.
Sure.
Cindy Worcester has asked about brushes, like the best kind of brush for applying a concealer specifically.
The best kind of brush. So I'm using our foundation brush. I love it because it's flat and it really gets the product into all the areas that I want it to be. It gives me control. And also when the width of it makes it so that when I blend it, I'm not getting streaks, but I'm getting wider areas of color. And I can get it right up under the lash line without creating any kind of streaks or, it doesn't look heavy. It also gives a lot of friction, so it blends it out quite nicely.
Right.
Some people choose to use our sculpting brush, which is like a little mini blending brush, and they'll go in circles when they blend it out, and that's acceptable too. It's really about finding a tool that you're able to control. That's the most important thing. You want to be able to control your medium when you're working. That's what makeup is. It's a medium.
That's great. Okay, now another question. I think this shade is perfect for Charlie. It looks absolutely beautiful of the foundation that you picked. And we have a couple of folks who are, every brand is different. How do you go about picking or selecting a foundation shade that is right for you? Some people say, oh, your neckline. Some people say the inside of your wrist. Like, what really works?
Well, typically, that's a great question too. Typically, the neck has a tendency to be lighter than the face because remember, the chin and jawline protects us here, so the sun doesn't hit as much here as it does here. So very often, if you match your neck, you're going to be white. If you put it too, I see people that match up on their forehead where they get a lot of sun, and then it turns out too dark. I typically check here on the side of the face, right there.
Okay.
And make a stripe of color and see what blends the best. Now, if you go to any Jane Iredale location, including into Lovely Skin, people will stripe you and show the difference between the color of the skin and the color of the makeup.
Yeah.
So we have some great professionals at Lovely Skin that you can talk to as well that'll help you to pick out the right foundation color. We even have a foundation finder quiz you can take.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. And thanks for that question, Anne. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to let you keep going. I keep interrupting with all these amazing questions from our audience.
That's okay. So now we've got nice highlights and a beautiful complexion. So now let's go in with some color. I'm going to use one of the most exciting launches that we've had in ages, and that is our new Glow Time Ethereals. What they are is blush and highlighter sticks that have a wonderful texture. And when you put them on the skin, they create an illuminated, glowing, lit from within appearance. And they're made from wonderful ingredients. They're made from jojoba seed oil, which is really hydrating to the skin. There's also some mica in there that's going to give it that high luminosity. And sarrasin wax, which is an unusual ingredient because what it has is a higher melting point than beeswax does. So when you put it on the skin, it stays more stable, stays in place, and gives a better blendability. So I'm going to start with a deeper color. This is actually called Glorious, much deeper than her skin. You can see that, right? And I'm going to use the same brush that I used to put on her foundation. I'm going to use this brush. And the way you can do it, you know, since she gets this one anyway, this is hers. I'm going to put the darker color here under the cheekbones and up in the temples. And as you can see, the color's quite intense. And then I get my blending contouring brush and I'm going to work the product out and blend it onto the skin. You see how it creates just a little bit of a contour shaping her cheekbone. Remember I said dark recesses, light pushes forward. So this is the dark part for creating a little bit of a recess on the outer portion of her face, contouring her and bronzing her at the same time. And as you can see, it has some beautiful luminosity. Let's do it on the other side. I also love the fact that the pigment is really rich. So when you put it on, even though you're blending it and shearing it out, it still leaves a wonderful amount of residual depth to it, which makes the skin look absolutely beautiful. You've got a hair there that just will not behave. So I had to fix it. Beautiful. And now you can see that gorgeous contour under her cheekbones, up in the temples. You can also put a little hint of it, lift up under the chin and along the jawline. Remember, it's always a good idea to put a little bit of depth under here because we have a tendency to get very white there because the sun doesn't hit us there. And you can see, isn't that beautiful just by itself? You could wear it. And that, I'm using it as a bronzer. That's our Glorious Glow Time Ethereal. So it's a tan golden color with a lot of warmth to it. There's a good amount of reddish orange in it, but it's mixed with a rich brown tone, so it's a great bronzer color. Then, if I want to create a glow on her cheek and pop out the cheekbone, I'm going to use a brighter color. I'm going to use the color Mist. Now, if you're Jane Iredale users already, and you're used to using our Barely Rose blush, you're going to love Mist because it has that same kind of pink tone, but with a nice amount of shimmer and glow. This time, I'm going to use my dome brush to put it on, and I'm going to pop that on the top of her cheekbone out here. And you can see the color, how beautiful it is, and then just blend.
Oh yeah, that looks great. Now,
And
as you're using these brushes, of course, a lot of people don't know how often they should be cleaning these brushes.
Oh my goodness, that's a great one. So one of the things I love about Jane Iredale is we make a botanical brush cleaner that is absolutely delicious. It smells incredible. It has a great ingredient deck in it that really gets all the makeup and dirt out of the brushes, cleans them quite easily. And that's what you can do kind of on a weekly basis. If you're if you're the only one using the brush, you can use that and get away with cleaning them with the brush cleaner on maybe a once a week basis. But I still, even if you're the only one using it, I recommend that you do a deep cleaning of your brushes, wash them with shampoo, or you can wash them with dishwashing liquid if they have a lot of facial oil in them. What that does is it gets out all of the dirt and any kind of things that might be gathering in your face, and gets them nice and clean. Don't soak them in water, but just squeeze them out when you're done and let them air dry over the edge of a table so that they dry from all the way around.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Thank you for that question, by the way, Leslie.
absolutely. So let's go in here with a little bit of our mist, and I'm loving this color on you.
I agree. It looks gorgeous on camera.
And then take a look back. Go back into the camera. Yeah, beautiful. So now she has, and I forgot to put a little, I'm putting a little blush up in the temples. Now, we had a conversation before we started the webinar tonight about the placement of blush, and so many people ask, where does the blush go? Because I think we all remember over the last decade or two, we've seen a lot of blush in the apples of the cheeks, the bronzer around the outer portion, and then the blush right where you smile. I always say like a little girl. But now what we're seeing is in fashion, on runways, and red carpets, we're seeing that blush is migrating back up to the top of the cheekbones like it was in the 60s and 70s. Kind of a cool tone that's on the outer portion of the face. You can be very liberal with your application of the Glow Time ethereals. Even if you use a lot of the product, it's not going to look heavy on the skin because of the wonderful ingredients that are in it and how
that looks
smooth.
beautiful. Now, I did have a question come in for someone who is cool with fair skin, but with
Yes.
underlying redness. Sometimes folks are a little hesitant to add a pink or a red when they already have that going on. So do you have some recommendations for that?
Absolutely. There's two colors that I can recommend for those colors of skin. One is called Ethereal, and the other one is called Enchanted. And let me just pick that up and show it to you. Ethereal is kind of a peachy nude tone, very soft. And then Enchanted is along the same level of depth, but it has, hold on just a second, I'm trying to open it up. This was a lab sample they sent me. I didn't want to open my tester. So this it's similar, but it has a little bit more of a rose undertone to it. So it's a pinker. So those two are excellent for creating that kind of natural looking glow on the skin, but without bringing out redness. And it's a good call that you say, I have a red undertone, maybe I shouldn't wear pink. Very often, if you have a pink skin or a red undertone and you put a pink blush, it makes you look too pink. So go to the opposite end of the color spectrum, to warm tones like oranges and golds, and that'll neutralize some of that pink and make it look softer.
That's great. And thank you, Ashley, for that question. That was a great question.
Now, the other thing I want to put on her, just to demonstrate, because I'm loving these products, is one of the highlighters. The highlighter is called Solstice, and it's kind of a light gold. And I'm just going to tap that right here on the very top of her cheekbone. Let's see if we can catch it. See where it's catching the light right there. And that gives it kind of the piece de resistance. I'm putting that right on the top of the front of the cheek so that it's creating that lit from within glow. Oh gosh, that's gorgeous. I love it. I have to say, this is one of my favorite products to use on Charlie. And she was doing luminous cheeks long before I ever met her, so she wears them quite well. All right. Do we love the way her complexion looks?
Yes, 100%.
Excellent. So now let's start working on her eyes, because she's got gorgeous eyes and we don't ever want to neglect those. I'm going to get some of my Smooth Affair primer. And I love our Smooth Affair primer for eyes because not only does it make the eyeshadow last longer, but it also feels really good and hydrates the eye nicely. It's made from cocoa glycerides that give a beautiful amount of hydration to the eyes. I'm using the color Canvas, and I'm applying it with my camouflage brush, and I just pull it across and blend it all over her eyelid, from the lashes to the brows. I especially like taking it on the lid where people have a tendency to get a little bit red. Canvas has a bit of gold in it, so it's going to help to neutralize that red tone we get on the lid. And although I'm applying it with my camouflage brush, this is one product that I always say, go back in when you're done and just tap it and blend it with your finger to make sure that it's nice and smooth. Open.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question about that, because not only with shadow, but with concealer, how do you avoid those creases?
So any concealer, I'll tell you now, no matter how expensive it is, no matter how good it is or new it is going to crease around the eyes. It's the nature of how things work. The skin around the eyes is constantly moving. So as we smile and make expressions, little bits of product will always conglomerate into fine lines and settle into wrinkles. It doesn't mean the concealer is not working. It just means that your eyes are moving the way that they should. When you make expressions, that's going to happen. So the key is maintenance. And what I tell every customer, when it starts to crease, and it will, remember to do your tapping. Tap, 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 and just press it out of the little lines. Now, Charlie doesn't have any lines. I have to say, I love the new Enlighten Plus because it really stays in place nicely. It doesn't crease like a lot of other concealers that I've seen over the years. It really stays in place very well. But if it does, just tap, 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 and blend it out, and that makes it look nice and fresh again. And you're going to do that through the course of the day. In the same way that you would touch up your lipstick or retouch your mascara, you're going to tap out your concealer. That's maintenance. I love it when I hear somebody say, well, I put my lip gloss on in the morning and I looked in the afternoon, it was gone, like it's some big mystery. It's makeup, not nail polish. It's going to come off. So we just have to maintain it.
I have a few eye questions as you're working here.
Yes.
Now I am 45. I just turned 45, and I am finding that this thing happened that I heard my grandmother speaking about, but I just didn't know that it was going to happen to me, where my eyes seem like they are deeper set than they were before. And of course the circles get a little bit darker. So can we talk about, now Charlie does not have this. And I have to tell you, Charlie, we have received so many comments about how beautiful you are. So I just want to pass those on to you as we're talking about this. So no one's mentioning these in regard to you, but I'm mentioning them because I've just noticed that for myself, and I know a few other people. So I'm curious if you can talk about that, or the hooded eye thing that starts to happen.
Absolutely. So as we age, of course, your eyes do sink back in your head. As we age, our skull shrinks. So, and our eyes recess. That's kind of a natural aging process.
I wish
using a concealer, not necessarily a brighter concealer or a lighter concealer, because very often people think, oh, the darker my under eye or the deeper my under eye, the whiter of a concealer I have to use, or lighter. And you don't want to look like you've been in the tanning bed with goggles on.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than using a lighter concealer, use a peachier concealer. So that's why I love our Enlighten Plus, because it comes, I use the Enlighten Plus Zero. The number 1 is even peachier. It has a fresh color. So when you put it on, it revitalizes the under eyes and makes them look so youthful. I think that it's a great idea not to go lighter with your concealer when that starts to happen, but just to go a little peachier with your concealer. Now I'm going to use the Daytime Eyeshadow Kit, one of my favorites, on Charlie. And I'm going to start with the second to the lightest color here. It's called Cappuccino. And I'm getting that color and placing it on the outer portion of her eye. And I'm going to work it diagonally inwards from the outer portion of the eye to the inner corner of the brow. And what I love about this color is that it's not too dark. I see a lot of people that they either go straight to their darkest color and then they lose control when they do their eyeshadow applications. Or I see people that put white all over their eyelid first, and then they can't get the intensity that they want because the light color that they put as an eyeshadow base is absorbing all of the dark color that they put on top of it. So my recommendation is start with a color that you can go lighter than or darker than, a medium tone. And as you can see, the cappuccino really just gives a little bit of depth. It's not making her eye look sunken in, but it definitely sharpens the structure of her eye just enough. And then I also pull it out a bit at the outer corners out here to create a lifting effect. And I got a little more on the lid than I want, so I'm going to tap some of that off, making sure that it stays in the crease. But again, we're not doing a windshield wiper half moon. We're going instead diagonally, up and inward from the corners, up and inward, to create an inward lift. And by doing it this direction, we leave all of that more open.
Nice. And which brush is that you're using, Shawn?
The crease brush, my favorite brush to start eyeshadow applicators. When I do any eyeshadow, I usually start with the crease brush because it's a flexible, soft, bendable brush, and it creates wider areas of color that are evenly dispersed rather than sharp lines of color. I don't like to do small, sharp brushes as much as I like to do softer, larger brushes. I get some of that same color, that cappuccino. You know what? I won't. I'll get this color, the next one over, almond, and I'll put that along her under eyes. I love using peachy, fresh tones under the eyes. Almond is about the same depth as the cappuccino, but it's a little bit peachier, more like a light terracotta. And I'm taking it all the way under her lash line. And by the way, this will be the only eyeliner she wears.
Nice.
I don't like doing dark under eyeliner on people that's not blended. And Charlie gets in trouble when she does it. And I have to reprimand her. Yes, you do. Now, typically, when Charlie does her own makeup, she'll do blues and greens, and she does a lot of fun colors, and she can rock it. I mean, she can totally get away with it. But when I do her makeup for the camera, I love using nude tones because it really pops out her and makes her complexion show up so beautifully and her eye color show up so beautifully. So you can see how soft that is.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
And then incrementally, I'm sorry?
No, I was just going to say, so we've had a couple of questions just about color palettes. And so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, now in the winter here in Nebraska, my skin looks much more similar to Charlie's, but in the summer, I get a lot darker really quickly. And so if someone were looking at a palette based on their sort of skin type, if they were to sort of think about that crease and then think about the line that you're creating there, do we just want to go one or two sort of steps down for that under eye replacement of the liner?
Yeah, you could go, as long as it's slightly darker than the color of the skin, but not so dark that it's darker than, all of the shadow. And if it's, the other thing is if it's a hard line, that's one of the things that makes it look heavy is when it's an unblended line. If the color is under there, even if it's a dark color and it's well dispersed, softly blended, then very often that makes it look softer and better.
Okay.
I just don't like unblended, sharp, dark lines under people's eyes. Because what it does is it draws the eyes down. People see what information you give them. If you put lots of dark color, lots of dark liner and unblended lines under the eyes, what direction does it pull the eyes?
Down.
Down.
Absolutely.
So, and we don't want to give Mother Nature any help. We want to keep it all lifted up.
Fair enough. Okay, now I've seen you use two different shadow brushes since your original. Can you talk to me about what those are?
So I used the smudge brush underneath her eyes to create, where did I put that? Oh, there it is. The smudge brush is a small brush, so that fits perfectly under the eye to create that soft shadow. And then for the outer corner, I'm using our eye contour brush, which has a little angle to it.
Nice.
And I'm just popping it right here at the outer corner to create a little bit of a lift there. You can
It's
see.
just the perfect shape for that.
Yeah. Now there's also a black color in there, a charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
And the charcoal I love because you can lay it on the lash line and use it like a liner.
Oh, that's great.
It's so beautiful. And I also love our shadows because very often if you use a black shadow on the eyes from some other brands, you end up with a bunch of black fallout under the eyes. But look at how clean that turns out.
Oh yeah,
It doesn't really, our shadow does not transfer the way that a lot of other transfers.
That's really beautiful. For those of you who are asking a lot of questions about brushes and things like that, I will say that some of the Lovely Skin team and Erica are putting in some links to the things that Shawn is using, the tools that he's using to achieve this gorgeous look on Charlie. So you can check the chat there if you have questions about that. Yeah, this looks beautiful, Shawn.
Now for anti-aging, on the inner portion of her eye, I'm not going to use the oyster that's in here because it has a lot of luminosity. And when I like to make the inner eye look smoother, I prefer to use a color that is matte on the inner corner of the eye. That's just, this is how I do inner eyes. I almost never put shimmer on the inner corner of the eye. So I'm going to use an auxiliary color called Bone. And I'm going to put that right there next to her nose. Now, this is a very common practice. You'll see most makeup artists put that light on the inner corner of the eye. Mm-hmm. I love it because it opens the eye up.
Oh, yeah.
Makes you look more awake and aware, takes out the tired, and it also elongates the eye inward, making it look larger. So it has multiple benefits. I love Bone. It's that perfect off-white. I use that on Charlie a lot. If she had deeper tanner skin, then I might drop it down to Champagne, which is kind of the next level down in depth. It's a little bit more peachy of a tone. I'm also going to take some of that Bone up on the highest point of her brow bone. And then once I get it up there, I'm going to wipe it back off because I don't want to have a really prominent brow bone, but I do want to have a little bit of light up there.
Nice, that's beautiful. Now, can I ask you to maybe give us one or two tips or tricks that you have for those who really struggle with the sort of hooded eye situation?
Yes. So for the hooded eye, what we're seeing is that the skin here often hangs all the way down. Mm-hmm. So you don't end up with as much of a crease to work with. If you try to put dark color in the crease of a hooded eye and make it look like there's more of a crease, then it's obvious and people can knock it off across the room. It looks heavy and it actually drags the eye down. If the skin is hanging, we don't want to draw attention to it. So what I typically do is I avoid that altogether. I'll put liner on the top lash line and smudge it and blend it, and I'll keep the focus on the lash line only, and then maybe pull this way from the outer corner. But I won't put color upward into the crease at all on a hooded eye. Okay. Keep it on the lash line or on the outer corner of the eye only to create a lifted effect.
That makes sense, and that's a great question. Thank you, Suzanne.
You like the way it looks, Charlie? I love it.
It's beautiful.
Let's go in with some of our Great Shape Brow Kit in blonde. Now, Charlie has, she has good brows because she has somebody that gives a little bit of enhancement. You get the microbladed, correct?
Yes.
And so when you, all you really need to do for her is just fill them in. And I'm using our Great Shape Brow Kit in blonde, following the template that's already there. I'm a big fan of microblading. I think that the results you can get from it are incredible. But I also love having good brow products. Our Great Shape Brow Kits are wonderful because the powder is really opaque. You can see how intense that color is. But it's a nice blonde, doesn't go on too dark, really just gives her the perfect shape. And I also am never afraid to go underneath the front of the brow and make it come down a little bit lower in the front, filling it in.
Now, you have mentioned, and you are correct, that Charlie does have these beautiful brows. What about those of us who have thinning brows as we get older and they start to just look like maybe we got a little aggressive in the 2000s, or, you know, earlier than that? We don't have hair growing there anymore.
And if that is the case, then you're going to want to use the retractable brow pencil. And as you can see, there is a tiny little lead, and I'm going to get that closer to the camera. It's a tiny little lead that you can literally use to draw individual hairs if you want to. And then a spoolie at the other end that you can use to brush after you're done. I often use this just after I'm done with Charlie's brows. I'll go underneath and put a little sharp line here to make the underside of her brow have a bit more structure, you know. And it's okay to have drawn lines on the brow, as long as the lines aren't so dark that it looks like your brows were stamped on with some kind of a machine. You know, I have to tell you, the whole social media thing. I see so many girls on YouTube and Instagram that just, it looks like drag queen makeup, and I want it to look soft. You know, I want it to look realistic, so that when you look at her, the makeup doesn't walk into the room before she does. What you see is this beautiful glow of who she is.
My eyebrows actually are blonde or white.
So you get, and so she gets
Really?
some,
Oh, they look beautiful.
yeah,
That's
gorgeous
great.
on her. So let's get a little bit of our lash conditioner and extender. And we're going to put some of that just on first. And I love our lash conditioner extender because it conditions the lashes, but it also helps me to lengthen them so that when I do her mascara, it'll really show up nicely. It adds a little extra bulk that we can use to build lashes. Now, sometimes I just throw a big old false lash on Charlie and she can rock that too, but I thought for today I would highlight the performance of our fabulous lash products. One of the things I love about Jane Iredale lash products is we don't use lacquer, shellac, or petroleum. So it's wonderful to not have to worry about it breaking the lashes off. The dirty secret that nobody wants to talk about in the cosmetics industry is traditional mascaras are loaded with lacquer and shellac, which break the lashes. It dries and hardens, and then when you try to remove it, it takes off your mascara, or it takes off your lashes. Look at me, right in my eyes, perfect. I like to put a business card behind. They even have little brow tools you can use to do this, or lash tools, but I like to use a business card. Beautiful. Charlie can make her lashes look quite beautiful on her own. But sometimes I get mad at her because she wears chunks. She has chunky lashes.
My eyelashes are white too.
They look beautiful now.
So let's talk about lips, because we could do a natural looking lip on Charlie, and that looks always beautiful. But I have to say, I love doing dramatic lips on her. She has gorgeous lips, so they look really pretty. I'm going to start by putting just a little hint of Pure Press base in a slightly lighter color than her skin. Let me see, where is, there we go. And I'm just going to dust over her lip area with a slightly lighter color so that when we do the lips, they'll really pop against that light backdrop. So, and then for her color, I'm going to do one of our new lip fixations that we just launched. It's called Captivate, and I absolutely love the color. Okay, I'll give you one. Do you know where all my gratis goes?
Yes,
I was going to say 3 guesses and the first 2 don't count.
right.
But of course, she's my inspiration and my muse, so.
Why
Totally.
not?
So I love the color. I love the depth. I also love the fact that it has just enough burgundy to look really intense, but it's kind of right on the cusp between burgundy and red. Ah, perfect. I typically go fuller with Charlie's lips. She likes a full lip. And the lip fixations are wonderful because they create that perfect fullness. You don't have to do multiple passes with this product. The original promotion when we launched it was called One Pass That Lasts. Because you put it on and it stays, and you really get instant saturation as soon as you put it on the lips. Turn towards me. I'll go a little lower right here. Oh my goodness, this color is gorgeous on you.
I could not agree more. That looks beautiful.
Now let me finish it off with a aubergine lip pencil, which is one of our new lip pencils. And that'll give it some perfection. I typically will use the lip fixation to create the color, and then I go back in and finish it with the pencil. And right now what we're seeing is a lot of people are loving the ombre lip. So the lip pencil that I've chosen is slightly darker, you see, so that gives a bit more intensity in the corners, a shadow that draws attention to the pout and leaves the center lighter. Ah. Gorgeous Charlie. So I'm just filling in the outer portions of her lips.
Beautiful.
Okay. And then I'll do a little bit of detail along the bottom here. What do you think?
I like this color.
Yeah, you need to snag that when you leave the house, Charlie.
I will.
I love that. Okay, so now I have a couple of questions here. One about just this. Okay, so these colors on Charlie look absolutely amazing. We have several people though asking, like, you know, hey, in general, sort of picking a color palette, and then, you know what, I'm transitioning, I'm starting to gray a little bit more. What are some tips for thinking about transitioning the palette that I'm used to a palette that might highlight just a little bit more what I want to highlight?
Well, if you're gray completely, then congratulations, you're a wild card. You can wear any color. And I have to say, my favorite, everybody who knows me knows my favorite supermodel is Carmen de la Fichet, the woman with the long white hair. It looks gorgeous and everything. But if your hair is starting to get lighter, if it's starting to get some gray in it, this is the time to start wearing bronzer. Bronzer goes really good against the gray hair. It can create contrast. Don't try to hide it. I used to tell my grandma, never cover up all that pretty gray hair. I had such a hard time putting it there. But it's beautiful when you see beautiful tan skin with that light like hair in the background.
Love it.
If you're concerned about what lip color to choose, I'll tell you now, very often I see people that are still looking for that perfect brown pink that they started wearing in the 90s. You know, they're like in search of it, and they have the same. You look in their makeup drawer, they have the same color in 10 different brands, like forever in pursuit of the perfect, you know, orangey pink brown or whatever the color is that they're used to using that looked good on them for a long time. My recommendation, and I can't stress this enough, if you want to try a new lip color, go up to the lipstick unit or go into the to the Lovely Skin website if you want to order from Lovely Skin. Find a color or like look at the screen, close your eyes and pick a color, and whatever you pick, you have to wear it for the day. And
I love
very
that.
often we can wear things that we don't realize we can wear. So many women that I know look extraordinary in red lips, but they don't want to wear red lips because it doesn't feel like them. You know,
Mhm.
now before you make any choice, of course, stay true to yourself and what feels comfortable to you, but don't be afraid to experiment. My recommendation to everybody on the call today, try a new lip color, something in a completely different shade than you've ever worn before. You don't have to change your whole makeup to do it, but just try a different lip color altogether, something in a completely different undertone. You might be surprised at how beautiful it looks, especially with the matte lips that are in today. And I'm looking at your lip and I'm seeing that I need to correct it a little bit right there. With a matte lip, there's a lot more versatility. You really see the shade. And then once you get that matte lip color on and you feel like you have it exactly where you want it to be, if you want to give it more dimension at that point, then you can go and put a little bit of shine just in the very center. Very often when I'm finishing a look, even though I've done a matte look on Charlie, for example, I'll get a little hint of a color like our Pink Lady gloss. Just a little hint of it.
Can you remind us what color you used as the base for her lips as well with that Pink Lady?
Yes, it's Captivate.
Perfect. Captivate. Hope that helps you see, Marone.
And then
Now,
right in the center, I'm
perfect.
putting just a little hint of Pink Lady gloss.
Nice. They look so juicy. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Okay, now, Shawn, you have done an amazing job, first of all, and the comments, Charlie, are phenomenal. So kudos to you both. Thank you so much. I have a couple of quick questions that I'm hoping we can touch on, and we have 2 minutes, so this is going to be a rapid fire. Okay, so talk to me about the longevity for wear of a foundation. Cherie has a 16-hour day. What should she pick?
Pure press base. It's our longest lasting foundation. Now, if you want to layer it over something, you could layer it over any of our liquid foundations. Beyond Matte also has a really good longevity when you wear it. But both of them, yeah, she does the Beyond Matte
long
days, and she'll come in at the end of the day after she's been sitting in her office and I'll go, you look amazing. And you've been, she's had the same foundation on all day. It really does stay in place. Make sure you use a hydration spray to set it with. That melds the makeup to your face and keeps it from coming off. The only reason I didn't use it on Charlie is because I was focused on the Beyond Matte liquid.
Oh, no, that's a great tip. Okay, self tanners,
Yes.
they can be complicated, but Jane's is not. Can you give me
No.
just a quick little primer on how to use that self tanner?
Sure. Make sure that you exfoliate your body first. Scrub your body with a washcloth if you don't have any kind of a body scrub. But get any dead skin that you might have off of your skin. And then you're just going to apply it all over the body. And remember that it's building up color gradually. So it's a cumulative effect. When you shower, of course, some of it will come off. It does have a bronzer in it too that gives you that instant pop of color. But if you wear it on a regular basis, it gradually gets your skin deeper. And I love applying it with the blending brush because then I
Yeah.
get it all over the skin and I don't have to worry about it getting on my hands. So I put it all over with the blending brush and just brush it onto the skin. Gives it a
Wonderful. I love that. This has been fantastic. I have learned so much. Shawn, always amazing to watch you work. And Charlie, wow, you need to go out. Like, you need to leave the house and go out somewhere and show that off. It's fantastic. So for everyone watching, thank you so much for such phenomenal questions. And I really hope that you understand what a genius brain you got to pick here while you've been watching this.